Hey y'all, and welcome back to Bourbon and Bones. If you're new to our channel, welcome. And if you're one of our faithful subscribers, welcome back. If you like what we're doing here, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and all of those other YouTube things. So we put out our best of 2020, and pretty much everyone else has as well. So one thing that I saw that I found really interesting was Whiskey Advocate. So they chose Larceny B Batch 920, which I think is a really interesting one as the best bourbon of the year. And not just the best bourbon of the year, but the best whiskey of the year, period. So I've been reading this edition of the magazine, and I've been thinking about the show a lot, which is kind of what you do when you need to make content. And I thought, I really have most of the bourbons and ryes on the list, even though Whiskey Advocate covers bourbons, ryes, scotches, and Irish, and anything with whiskey in it. And I thought maybe a blind would be kind of interesting to see if we agree with the rankings. And I own about 6 or 8 of those whiskeys, and I could probably get samples of the rest of them and do all 20. But then I thought that I would probably die and if I tried to do all those blind at once. So it'd be a multiple episode. If you are interested in that, let me know in the comments below. If not, I don't want to get that hammered on camera. It would probably, my accent would really start developing heavily. But if you really want to see a couple of episodes really getting into if we agree with Whiskey Advocate or not, let me know below. So the second best idea I had after reading the magazine was saying that I have a bottle of Barrel Proof B920. And is it the best of the 2020 bunch? And this I felt was a far more doable approach. So here is batches A, B, and C of Larceny Barrel Proof of 2020. So if you want to know more about the history of Larceny, check out this video. Otherwise, let's go ahead and dig into the bottles. So they were all produced, of course, in 2020. A batch means it's the first series. 1, January. 20, the year. Pretty simple. B, second batch, the 5th month being May, the year 2020. And the C batch, which is the final batch, which is 9, which is September 2020. And the proof differences are actually really quite big. So for the A batch, it's 123.2 proof. The B batch is 122.2 proof. And the third batch is 122.4. So altogether, they're not that far apart. But are they really that big of a difference in flavor profile? And that's what we're going to determine today by doing a true blind again. Now, these are actually what's called a batch proofing, not a single barrel proofing. Sometimes you'll find a bottle that says single barrel proof. That means it's a single barrel and it's given to you at a barrel proof. These are done in batches, so they'll take hundreds, perhaps thousands of barrels, depending upon the company, and blend them together into an individual batch. And so this is the batch series of these 3 bourbons. So they're all going to be a little bit different. So we know that Larceny is a blend of 6 to 8-year-olds, which is really a nice spread for bourbon. And this is an uncut, non-chilled filtered, wheated bourbon. And so, like often, the girlfriend actually set up this blind for us tonight. And here we have glasses A, B, and C, and Larceny A, B, and C is in one of them. So let's dig into the bourbon. We'll start with A. So on the nose you get a very, very heavy corn, like a cereal malted graininess to it. And definitely like a toasted caramel and a little bit of oak, almost like a smoked oak. Maybe something like butterscotch, but at the very, very end, you get a little splash of ethanol, which is interesting because something at this high proof should be ethanol and then all the flavors behind it. And I think the reason that doesn't happen as much is because it's a wheated bourbon. Now it is on the palate hot. There's a lot of ethanol. It's a really high proof. You can definitely taste the proofage. But it's not unpleasant by any means. It has a ton of apple, Lots and lots of apple, lots of oak, caramel, toffee, like walnut nuttiness to it as well. Really powerful dark fruits that just kind of build and build and build, and then slap on oak and vanilla and leather. It is wildly complex, and for a lot of wheated bourbons that's kind of hard to do, except for in a barrel proof. But this is already really like A. All right, as many of you know, I really like Larceny, period, but I think this batch is, whichever one A is, it's an excellent one. I'm a big fan already. So batch 2, or B rather. We'll see which one it is. This one is a lot more, it's a lot lighter. It is a little bit more ethanol on the front. There's a lot of citrus notes, like orange rind or lemon rind, and a very strong floral grassiness to it. Just green grassy, kind of lemongrass kind of thing. It's very green oak right on the front. Lots of green oak, lots of freshness. It's very fresh tasting bourbon, which I think is fairly interesting. You definitely get the corn, some type of tropicalness to it. I'm not really sure if it's a specific like fruit or something, but there's a little bit of this tropical, earthy grassiness to it. Wildly different. This is almost like cured leather. This is almost summer cocktail. Very light on the palate in the ethanol, and we all know it's already hot, but it's very subdued on the ethanol level. Very interesting batch. I like it, but it's very different from the first one. So, C sample. So I'm smelling vanilla caramel, maybe a touch of maple syrup. It's very sweet forward. A little bit of pecan nuttiness. Touch of oak. It's very sweet direction. It smells very nice. So let's give it a taste. This one, again, very subdued on the ethanol, which is excellent. Lots of almost berry fruits, like dark cherries. Really like honey, like vanilla. Very different. Very different. I like this a lot, but again, as you can see, we have 3 very different samples here. So we're gonna take a quick break, let my palate rest. I am going to do a quick kind of reevaluation to kind of see how I like the order. We're gonna come back with some water, and so stay with us. So welcome back. So we have, I've switched up the order a little bit. So I think A so far is the best for me, followed by C, followed by B. I did that off screen, I don't know, because I think it would look good. I don't know. We're trying things. What I'm going to do now is we've added some water to everything. We're going to do a short little tasting and kind of see how things changed or if anything did. So here's A again. So on the palate, it is, sorry, on the palate, on the nose, rather, still very much a butterscotchy caramel. Still a little bit of oak, but that's really pulled back some. And it's much more of just like a toasted oak, because when you get some of the toasted bourbons, it's a little on the sweet end. A little splash of vanilla. Well, that's about it. And again, virtually no ethanol on the nose. Splash of water. It is rye kind of flavors. And I know there's no rye in it, but I think they're just the weeded corn mixing with the ethanol kind of gives this artificial rye flavor to it. It's rye and cereals, browned or almost dark brown sugar, huge vanilla bean coming off of it. It actually has become very sweet forward, but in a very oaky way. Still really good. Very different from what I thought it was going to evolve into. So, I'm going to go with the C batch, current second place. Now this is honey. Lots of honey, lots of caramels, lots of vanillas. It's actually very, it's almost savory honey, savory herbaliness. But it's very tangy on the palate. It's almost appley, like almost like a lot of like green apple and a lot of clove, like a really spicy clove and cinnamons. It's very dessert-like. It's very much a like apple pie kind of savoriness. It's very juicy. It's excellent. It's wildly different than it was before. I'm very surprised. But I will say they both have a very buttery texture to them now than they did before. And all right, so the third one. This smells like pancake breakfast. Maple syrup, a little bit of a toasty, bready kind ofness, but that's it. Like there's not much else going on here, at least on the nose. I like it, but it's so subdued compared to the other two. Yeah. Caramel, maple syrup, vanilla, a little bit of corn. Nice leather towards the end. And almost like a little bit of almond coming off of it. Just a touch right at the very, very end of it. Just as it's really kind of rolling off the palate. Not as buttery as the other two. All right, so I'm gonna do a quick little speed frame. I'm gonna choose our winners and we will do the verdict. Okay, so I didn't change the order. I really think it is A is My favorite, followed by C, followed by B. So the verdict is that C, or B rather, the third place is, so B is B Batch 520. Whiskey Advocate's best whiskey of the year. C, which is second place, is A120. And the winner is C920, which I have to admit I am very surprised with. I really thought that the B was actually the most recent C batch because of just how smooth and easy drinking it is. I didn't realize. Yeah, well, there we have it. I am a little surprised by this, but clearing ahead, C Batch 920 is, for me, the best winner of the year for the Larceny Barrel Proofs. Tell me what you think about that. Have you had all three? Would you like to try all three? Do you have the C Batch? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. So for our final transition this evening, we've revisited Larceny, and so I thought we would also revisit Megalaodon. So in our last video, we talked about what the Megalaodon was, where it lived, how it lived a bit, but we did not talk about much of where to find a Megalaodon tooth for yourself. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So Megalaodon lived in the ocean. No surprise. But where's the best place to find Megalaodon teeth today? And oddly enough, it's actually still the ocean. So as the oceans form and shift, as the plate tectonics move about, Megalaodon lost millions and probably billions of teeth throughout their long reign in the sea. And so all of those teeth actually fell to the bottom of the ocean. They were covered in calcite. And so most Megalaodon teeth don't look like this coming right out of the ocean. They tend to have this hard crust of white around it. Still tooth-shaped, but is actually more crusty. So the best place to still find Megalaodon teeth are actually still oceanside. So particularly right after a large storm or a hurricane, if you're one of the first people out, you could go out and possibly find Megalaodon teeth. Now some of the best places to actually look for it are actually inland creeks and rivers that are feeders from the ocean into the mainland a bit. Large lagoons, things like that. Scuba gear or snorkel gear will always help you with this. Allows you to kind of get down into the depths where people tend not to go. And this will happen on virtually any coast in the world. North America and South America tend to be some of the better places to be looking. The East Coast also tends to be better than the West, but they are in anywhere where the ocean reaches up and meets the shoreline, and you're brave enough or warm enough to go diving for them. So Megalaodon teeth are really prolific fossils. They tend to show up all over the world and are really relatively easy to find. One thing that's fun is that my mother actually is a big beach goer, and she loves to sift through the sand and find fossils. And she loves to find little shark teeth. Well, the darker the tooth, typically the older it is. And she has found a ton, really hundreds of Megalaodon teeth. But they're only about this big. They're itty bitty. They're from infants and juveniles that slowly lost teeth. And you have to realize that Megalaodon teeth aren't always this big. Many of them, most of them will be a lot smaller. There are some that will be absolute monsters, but those tend to be once in a lifetime discoveries. So I encourage you, get out there. If you're close to an ocean or you're going to be visiting an ocean, perhaps do a little diving, do a little exploration, look for these big chunks of white calcitic sediment, and perhaps inside is a Megalaodon tooth. So I want to thank you for joining us tonight, and I wish you luck as you go diving and looking for Megalaodon teeth, and as you go searching for bourbons, and let me know what you find. I'm always excited to hear from you all. And remember, share a bourbon with someone. Good night.